Okay, let's move beyond CSS for styling only and use it for positioning. Let's click on one of the HTML files that is inside our HTML folder, and then click the icon to create a new HTML file. Let's call this page layout.html. Once again, you should start the page by typing an exclamation point and then hitting Enter or Return. Let's give our page a title of Layout Template. In the body section, I'm going to show you a new tag, div. Div stands for divided section. Div is a lot like a span element. It is a tag that, if left empty, does nothing whatsoever. It also allows for setting a custom style. The only difference between div and span is that div is a block element, whereas span is an inline element. This means that div will put a line of empty space after itself, whereas span will not, and you can have content butt up against span. Let's put 5 empty div tags for now. Now that we have those 5 div tags, let's create a new style sheet. This time, you will want to click on your style sheet file before clicking the new file icon. This is because the editor will automatically store the new file in the same folder as the file that you are currently working on. You don't want that to be stored in your HTML folder, you want it to be stored with your other CSS files. Let's name this file layoutstyles.css. Let's go to our aboutme.html file and copy this link to our style sheet. You are going to need it in a second. Next, let's take a second to clear out the files that we have open up here. Close all of your files except layout.html and layout.css. Now open your layout.html file, and under your title in your head section, paste that link to your style sheet you copied earlier. You will need to correct the path, remembering that you are starting from your HTML file and are going to your newly created layoutstyles.css file. Pause the video here and see if you can do that. Okay, hopefully you corrected that path. I'm going to do that really quick so you can check your work. You need to go up a level to get back to the main directory where you can select and enter your styles folder. Then you will want to select your new style sheet. So really, the only thing I needed to change was my file name. Okay, now that we have everything set up, let's start working on positioning. In these divs, we are going to want to use a couple of attributes, class and ID. Let's go to Layout and create a body style and set background to a nice gray color for testing purposes. Let's also change the font, and this time we should use the Verdana fonts. Now we are going to create a custom style that we are going to use across all those divs we set up. A nice name for a common custom style is .common. To make it easy to see those sections and how they are laid out on a page, I am going to give them a background color and make them stand out. So, I'm going to give them a background color of # and 6 Cs. This is a very light gray. I'm also going to give them a border. The values I'm going to use are 2 pixels, solid, and white. Now let's assign those classes to our divs. I'm going to set this to class equals common, and then I can just copy the class including this leading space and then paste it for each div. Make sure to paste it before the closing greater than sign. Okay, now let's fill these divs with the names that they will eventually become. For the first, we want to put header. The second, left menu. Third, main body. Fourth, right menu. And last should be footer. The vision that I have for the page is that the header will occupy basically the space that they are taking up right now. I want the left menu to be on the left side, the main body to be in the middle, the right menu to be on the right side, and the footer to be at the bottom. I also want each of these sections to automatically readjust themselves for different screen sizes so they automatically use the whole page. To make this work, I'm going to go to our new style sheet and apply a new property that you haven't seen before called position. I will put this in our common style so that it applies to all of our divs. The value pair for this is going to be absolute. There are a ton more, but we don't really have the time to go over in detail each value. You can and should look up these on W3 Schools and read about them if this kind of thing interests you. Absolute tells the browser to ignore all other HTML elements around an element and pretend that they don't exist. The implication of that is that our elements don't see each other, and then they will collide and appear on top of each other. It actually might just be easier to show you. I'm going to save and then go to my page. Each one of our divs is on top of the other, and the last one is on top of them all. They are all there even though you can only see footer and part of what is right menu. Also, you may notice that absolute removes the block nature aspect of our elements. It doesn't have a hard return anymore. Come back to our code and let's create a unique style for each of our divs. First, create .header. We are going to learn 4 new attributes here: top, left, right, and height. Top. We are going to tell our browser that we want our elements to start down 5 pixels from the top. Left. We are going to tell it to start 5 pixels in from the left. Right. We are going to tell it to start 5 pixels in from the right. Height. We are going to tell it to be 100 pixels from top to bottom. We have told our divs to start at 5 pixels from the top and to be 100 pixels deep, so the very bottom of our div element is 105 pixels from the top of the screen. Just add them together. This also means that we cannot use an attribute called bottom. We will use the bottom attribute very soon, but for now, hopefully that makes sense why we can't use all 4 sides of an attribute if you also use the height attribute. Let's go to our HTML code and add the header class to our header div. Save that and let's check our work. Okay, we are 5 pixels in from the left, top, and right, and then our element starts. It is also 100 pixels deep. We cannot use the bottom attribute as well because the height attribute is already calculating how deep the element needs to be, in this case 100 pixels. Let's go back to the code and fill out the rest of our custom styles. .left menu, .main body, .right menu, and .footer. Now let's add each of them to our divs. Let's move on and create the style for left menu. Hopefully, you are making sure that you are tabbing over the correct amount for your style sheet as well as your HTML. Remember, you can use tab to move a block of code to the right, or shift tab to move it to the left. Take a minute to pause the video and fix these if they are not correct. How far from the top should our element start? A lot of students might assume that 5 pixels is the correct amount, but because our element uses the absolute value, they do not know about the existence of our other elements, so that won't position them correctly. We will have to do a little bit of math to get the correct value. So we know that our header is 100 pixels in height, and that it is 5 pixels from the top, so that is 105. We also want our left menu to be 5 pixels down from the header, so now we are at 110. But that still won't be enough because our border is 2 pixels wide, and there is a top border and a bottom border, so now we are at 114 pixels. 114 is the correct amount. Save, and I'm going to run through that one more time. The header is 5 pixels from the top. The top is 2 pixels, so 7. The header is 100 pixels deep, so now we're at 107. The bottom border is 2 pixels, so 109. Then we want to add a 5 pixel gap before the left menu starts, so we get our 114 pixels. Great job. Hopefully that made a lot more sense and you can remember that for when you are making your own websites. But for now, I want to align it on the left really fast. That is an easy change. Back in our code, we make our element come off the left side 5 pixels. I am going to introduce you to the width attribute. It is like the height attribute, but it goes horizontally instead of vertically. If we want our left menu to be 100 pixels in width, we simply set width to 100 pixels. Okay, now we need to set it so it attaches to the bottom of the screen. That is another new attribute called bottom. We are going to set this as 39 pixels because we will later create the footer. I'm going to reiterate this again to make it super clear to you. You can set the top and the left and right, but you can't set the bottom because height takes care of that. For the left menu, you can set the left, top, and bottom, but you cannot set the right because width takes care of that. You cannot set all 4 sides and set either height or width because they conflict with each other. Okay, for the body content, the attribute that we want to use is right because we want it to be attached to the right side of the page and we want it to automatically resize to the sides of the web page. If we used width, then the main body content would be set at whatever pixel amount we set it for, and it wouldn't resize according to the size of your monitor, and it would not look right. We will also set our right attribute to 114 pixels as well. Now we set the bottom to 39 pixels. Okay, pause the video and see if you can do the right menu in the footer by yourself. Okay, I'm going to run through this really fast, so hopefully you paused the video and you did those. The right menu will be top 114 pixels. We did that math already. The right will be 5 pixels. The width will be 100 pixels. The bottom will be 39 pixels, just like the others. Okay, moving on to the footer. The bottom will be 5 pixels. The left will be 5 pixels. The right will be 5 pixels. And the height will be 25 pixels. That is because we want it to be 5 pixels up from the bottom and 5 pixels away from the left menu, main body, and right menu, and we have a 2 pixel border. So 39 minus 14 is 25. And one more thing. Now that I've anchored my elements to attach to the top, left, bottom, and right, they will all readjust to the size of my screen. When I make my screen smaller, the elements that are attached to the sides will automatically adjust, while the elements that are given a fixed height or width do not adjust in those directions. That is it for this video.